Welcome to the She Would Know podcast,
where curiosity meets expertise.
Welcome back to the She Would Know podcast. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Shayna.
And today we are really excited for our guest. It's very timely with the holidays coming up.
Today we are interviewing Alicia from Hive Honey Home. And we're going to be talking about hosting tips and tricks.
Yes. And my in-laws are coming to our house for Thanksgiving. This is the first year we are like hosting a major holiday. So
do you feel so grown up?
I feel very grown up. Yeah, I do. And I was thinking last night, I was like, do I have tablecloths? Do I have enough plates? Do I have, but my in-laws are pretty low maintenance. So I don't think they will actually care or notice anything.
I have never hosted anything. Like I'd barely even hosted like people over for dinner. It's just, I don't know. I've always been in a stage where like we go somewhere else. So that would feel really intimidating. I'm hoping Alicia had some good tips for people in my position who have no idea where to start with that.
Yeah, I'm sure she will because I follow her on Instagram. Her account's Hive Honey Home, and she always has the best tips and advice. So I'm excited to hear what she has to say.
Me too. Well, first, what's on your brain this week?
Okay, this is super nerdy and maybe a little weird, but my niece just finished the very first Harry Potter book, and it is like a huge milestone in our family. And she's so smart. She's 9. She just finished it. And so tomorrow night, we're having a Harry Potter party. And we're going to watch the first movie.
That is so cute. That just brings back so much memories. Like Harry Potter was my childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been such like a bonding thing. Because like every time I see her, I'm like, what's happening in your book now? Like it took her like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months to like read it. And so I'm very excited about that.
I love that. I can't wait till my kids are old enough to appreciate Harry Potter.
What's on your mind? What's new with you?
Well, I had to pick up a dead pigeon yesterday.
Oh, I know.
My turtle was eating it.
Oh, gross.
Right? I was like, I thought you were vegetarian. And my husband was at work. And of course, I just can't let a dead pigeon stay in my yard. So I had to clean it up. I was gagging for a long time.
Yeah, that is really gross. My daughter and I were on a walk the other day and there was a dead bird. And what's up with all the dead birds in our area? But anyways, we had our first discussion about what death was. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I don't want to be the grown up here. I don't want to explain what this is. Where's the grown up? It can't be me.
Yeah.
Well, on a brighter note, let's do some She Should Knows.
Okay. So we have a couple submitted She Should Knows. These are all the silly to serious things that we wish we would have known sooner. We have a Google sheet that you can submit to anytime up on our Instagram. And the first one is, which is very appropriate for the topic today, is when you buy a pie or pie crust, save the tin for leftovers.
Oh, I submitted this one.
Oh, you submitted this one.
Yes, my mom does this. Well, my family loves pies. We probably eat pie more than the average person, but it's a great thing to send people at home with leftovers in.
Like just the tin ones.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And it feels a little classier than sending home leftovers in like old cottage cheese container or something,
That is true. Yes, we love sustainable hacks.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the next one?
Okay, I'll read the next one. So our second tip is to have them check your spare tire pressure when they check your other tires at the oil change shop. It's usually low and won't do you any good if you need it.
It's genius. I never would have thought that.
No, me either. I don't think I have a spare tire in any of my cars, actually.
Now that you're saying that, I don't even know where the spare tire is in my car. I think it's like up and under.
I think a lot of them stopped putting spare tires.
Oh, that seems like a corner they should not have been cutting.
Well, I don't know, but I know neither of my cars do.
Oh, dang it.
So, but if you have a spare tire, that is a good tip. That make sure it's always inflated. Otherwise, you're up a creek.
Yeah. Oh, man. I hate car stuff.
Yeah. Actually, I don't mind car stuff, but it can be quite a hassle and quite expensive.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's jump into our interview.
Okay. Alicia Wyatt has been a wife and a mom for over 16 years, supporting her husband through his schooling and training during their early years of marriage. With a degree in interior design that she never formally pursued, Alicia instead channeled her creativity into homemaking, mastering the art of creating a home that feels welcoming, inspiring, and brings her family closer together. And we are so excited to have her on the podcast. Let's jump into the interview.
Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
We're so excited to talk to you today.
Yes.
I
Go
It's
ahead,
okay.
Alicia.
I was gonna say I am also excited. This is actually the first time I've ever done a podcast interview, so
You're just chatting with friends. Don't even worry about it.
yeah. And I like that we're doing this at night because like this is like my time when I'm alive, so we're good.
Oh, you're a night owl, huh?
Yeah, and the kids they're not in my space, so I'm good.
That is perfect.
Yep.
Well, we always start with some rapid fire questions. We didn't send these to you, but they're not very serious. Don't overthink it. Just give us a quick answer just to break the ice. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah, it's totally fine.
Okay. What is your favorite meal to make?
Breakfast burritos.
What is your hobby?
Oh, what is my hobby these days? I do, this is so funny, but I do love to do a good shelfie. Do you guys know what a shelfie is?
No.
Like you like reorganize like shelves so that they're displayed nicely, and I could stay up until the wee hours in the morning like taking down everything from my shelves and then redoing it.
Oh,
And if you want to call that a hobby, but
it sounds
that
like
is what it
fun to
is.
me. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But it's called on Pinterest, people call it a shelfie.
Oh,
That's
I
so
love
funny.
that. What
Yeah.
time do you wake up in the morning?
I have turned a new leaf this school year, and I've been getting up at the alarm goes off at 5:55, and I'm making sure I'm awake. I'm not always out of bed, but I am awake, having some me time at that time.
Oh, that's perfect.
Uh,
Okay, let's do one more. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
One recently that my daughter actually said, she said, "Mom, you like naturally can talk to anybody. Like you can get along with people, and you just can make conversation with everybody." So I don't feel like to me, I was like, oh, that's hard for me. Like sometimes it is hard, but I do like I enjoy talking with people. So here I am.
Yeah, that is such a good skill too.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about hosting through the holiday. Can you tell us what hosting has looked like for you over the years? Your kids are a little bit older. Just start from the beginning. What did it look like when you had young kids?
Yeah. So I have my oldest is going on 15. I've been married now over 16 years, and we have lived probably half our marriage on our own where we didn't have family nearby. So it was kind of up to me to create the holidays for a family and what that looked like in our house. And so I can remember like when my oldest was a 2-year-old and we were living in an apartment, we just moved there. We did not have furniture yet. And we turned over our storage bins that we'd moved with there and had them upside down, end to end, put a tablecloth over it, and made a long dining table. And we didn't have chairs. So me and my husband and my daughter and my sister and her husband and their baby, we just kind of Indian style around the bins had Thanksgiving that way. So
I
that's
love
like one of our
that.
first, yeah, I can remember that. Since then, we've fine-tuned things, and I've kind of gotten in my groove about the holidays. But, um, I think it hit me early in our marriage, like when like I said, we're living on our own, that it was kind of up to mom to start creating these traditions, and I didn't. I can think of a couple times where we did buy store-bought and had a meal brought in, and I didn't like that. I was like, "No, like, I need to be making this." So, it's important to me to start creating traditions for my family.
I agree. And creating traditions can be really hard, like, especially if you don't grow up with any. Like,
Yeah.
just like, where do I start? What do I actually want to carry on? Do I just try a new tradition every year, but then not
Right?
actually develop any?
Right. So sometimes I feel like too, you have to like make a conscious effort to like remember what you're doing every year because it's easy a whole year has gone by. So
Yeah.
it's easy
Yeah.
to forget like, okay, what did we love last year and what are we going to keep doing every year? So if you start, as your kids get older, they will remind you what you did last year and that they liked that or didn't like it.
Yeah.
So would you just like write down a list of things you liked and didn't like to every holiday?
I don't know if honestly, I would say that I probably did start to rely on my kids. And some traditions we were like, oh, you're supposed to be doing that. Like, like for a lot of families, they'll go and see Christmas lights somewhere in the community. They go
Hmm.
see Christmas lights. We have something like that in our area, but honestly, it's not something that we love. And then one year we were like, why are we doing this?
Mm.
We kind of pointed out, we were like, we don't have to force ourselves to do this. We don't have to do those things. So, so I don't know if I've necessarily written it down, but I've just kind of mentally have secured, okay, yeah, we really did like this, or we really didn't like that. And so we just don't do that anymore, but we still continue with the things we like.
Yeah. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, let's get into some of the like really practical things that you've learned over these years of like
Mhm.
how hosting has changed for you and what you've learned through all of it.
Mhm.
So, what are so simple things we can do like the day or week before a holiday gathering to make hosting stress free? Because a lot of times, like that day, if you're hosting on Christmas Day or whatever, becomes just completely non-enjoyable for like the mom or
Yeah.
whoever's like in charge of hosting.
Right. So I would say this now, when you guys asked me this question, it actually made me think of my husband and I both come from large families, and now we are living in a place where we're near those family members. And a lot of times when I think of the holidays, it involves overnight guests. I have a lot of family that will end up staying at our house. And so, so that's mentally has a connection for me. Holidays mean people are coming to my house, not only to eat, but they stay there overnight and sometimes for several nights. So I thought that some of the most simple things that you could do when you know that guests are coming is that you make sure that you have like a designated sleeping space. Sometimes that might mean that my kids are giving up a bed for a family member. So letting kids know that you're going to be camping out in this area and aunt and uncle are going to be sleeping in your bed. The the bathroom spaces, they need to be prepped for having guests, whether they're spending the night or not. Nobody likes to go into a gross bathroom. So so we try to keep up on our cleaning chores and just the typical routine. Even in the holidays, we're still cleaning bathrooms. But another thing that I find that if you do those things ahead of time, it just creates a calm tone for that season. I have definitely slept over or been an overnight guest at other people's houses where they weren't prepared, and you kind of feel almost sheepish about being there when they're running around and trying to gather all the stuff for a guest because they weren't quite prepared. I so like I always just make sure that we have guest bedding, that it's clean, that we have a guest bathroom that's designated for them, that it's clean, that we have enough towels to go around for people that are overnight guests, enough guest pillows, and this is so silly, but enough toilet paper. Like, like you never want to be caught hosting without having those kinds of necessities.
Yes, that's a great point.
Yeah. And something else I thought of too is to spend time batch cooking. Even if you, and this is big to me too, when you have those overnight guests, is to have some dishes that you've prepared maybe that are put aside in the freezer because you want to be present with your guests. And that's just one thing that you can take off of your plate and you can have fun with your guests that are arriving from out of town. And it's so easy to just pop something that's maybe been in your freezer and pop that in the oven and start baking it when you need it.
That's really
So,
smart.
Yeah, that is
yeah.
really smart. Do you have any like go-to recipes that you like to prep ahead of time?
During the holidays, like I've kind of learned over the years that things like potato dishes, pies, rolls, breakfast dishes, cookies, all of those things can always be made ahead and you can always have them made up, prepped, and in the freezer to be baked, or even maybe they've already been baked. My sweet mother-in-law, she's very good about baking cakes and then lets them cool and then sticks them in the freezer until she needs them. And they actually turn out like they're always delicious cakes. So utilize your freezer during that holiday season and put away things for feeding guests. Like it's just work to your advantage and your future self will thank you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a great way to, like, distribute the work because there's a lot of stuff that you have to do the day of, and then, like, prepping for guests, that might take the few days before they're there, so you could do some of this stuff, like, 2 or 3 weeks before your guests come.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's I mentioned my mother-in-law. I've learned from her, she's very, very good at prepping for holiday meals weeks in advance before everybody gathers at her house. So that's something that I usually do days, but she's very good about getting things done weeks before and has put it in the freezer, and then she'll just warm it up or bake it when we're all together.
I
That's
love
awesome.
that.
How
Yeah.
do you manage the prep and everything for guests while also having little kids that take up your time and attention and keep messing things up?
Yeah. Well, I don't have little kids anymore. Like I said, my youngest is 9, so she's actually more of a helper, but that is probably what I would start doing with my if I still had little kids, or what I would do with nieces and nephews that I do have that are little, is you give them a job. Kids love to help with, especially like desserts. So if you can give them a job in doing that, I know when my kids were younger, I used to have them help me kind of after all the prep had been done in the kitchen, it would help me set the table and clean up so that we could so that the kitchen wasn't a complete disaster while we were eating in it, that, they'd help me sweep the floor or wipe the table down and then set the table so that we were ready to eat. And that was a job that they got to take ownership of.
Would you say that maybe if you are in a stage where you have little kids that you can like manage your expectations and probably not be like the most put together host or maybe put off hosting responsibilities until later?
Well, yeah, or even delegate. Like everybody, I mean, we still do that with extended family get-togethers, but everybody brings something.
Mm.
So that doesn't put so much pressure on one person to do it all. Um, it, and especially if you have little kids involved. I mean, if you have little kids, that's a huge task to have to make an entire holiday meal by yourself. So if you can delegate, if it's a gathering with friends, and you've delegated that these friends bring this and this friend brings this, and then you provide something yourself. I love, to do it potluck style if you want to. Yeah, that's what I would say is just kind of share the responsibilities, and it will turn out fine. And be okay with it kind of being a modge podge of things,
Mhm.
because that's just part of the fun.
Mhm.
And you get to try and share your traditions with other people when you do it that way too.
Yeah, I think managing expectations and communication can be huge. Like, my husband and I had a discussion probably like a year ago where I was like, I really like cooking and I'm happy to cook healthy meals for us or have people over for dinner or whatever. But when I'm cooking, it's not very fun to also be holding a crying baby or to have a
Yeah.
toddler who wants to, like, quote, help or
Yeah.
something, and it's
Yeah.
like I need, like, the most intense part of cooking or whatever. I need 30 minutes where no one's bugging me. So, and, just like
Well,
having those conversations, I think can make a big
mhm.
difference.
Well, and one thing that I thought of was that over the years, a lot of times, like this kind of sounded like what you were getting at. Over the years, when I'm kind of in my mode in the kitchen preparing for holiday meals, I don't want a lot of people in there. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's not helpful to have the kids in there. So honestly, that's when a lot of like our holiday movies will be turned on. I'm
Mhm.
around, I'm in the kitchen doing meal prep stuff, but they get to watch a holiday movie, and I don't mind that. Like it's just something that if I'm in my zone, then let me be in my zone and just kind of get out of my way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, or go
yeah.
on that family walk to see the Christmas lights or have someone take the
Mhm.
kids to the park or whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, I live in
Yes.
Arizona, so we live in Arizona, so it's like you can do stuff outside, but I guess maybe that's
Yeah.
not true for everyone.
Yeah, yeah, that's well, and I think that's a good time to, yeah, like if they, or even if you want to give like kids a project to do, if or a Christmas craft, that's a good time. The only thing that I'm kind of hesitant about is, you know, be careful that you're not giving them a mess that becomes huge over there, and you're also
Oh,
making a
yeah.
mess over here in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's a good point. I
Yeah.
always remember being sent to the backyard to peel potatoes.
Oh.
My mom would be like, here's a peeler, here's some potatoes, go do it in the backyard. Now that
Yeah,
I'm thinking
yeah.
about it, I'm like, she just needed some peace and quiet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, and I do think one thing that you do have to realize is it like my kids, that like I've said a couple times, they're older now, so they're actually at a great time that they can be side by side with me in the kitchen, and it's good for them to learn
Mhm.
some of these dishes that have become tradition in our family. Like they're easy enough. Like my teenagers can cook those things and
Mhm.
help with those things because I mean, those are the kinds of things that they'll end up leaving home with later is knowing those recipes.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, so you know, if we get to an age where they are very helpful to you, then let them be.
I remember like seeing my mom write down, we're gonna have turkey and green bean casserole and fruit
Mhm.
salad and rolls. Like seeing her write those things down, and then, as we were all older, my mom then writing one of our names next to it, and like
Yeah,
she'd be like, okay, I'll get the ingredients for you, but you're in charge of making the green bean casserole or whatever. And then we
yeah,
would even be like, okay, how long does everything have to cook? And making a schedule of like when things have to go in the oven and all that kind of stuff. And I'm so glad that I saw my mom do that, because now I know how to do that and I don't have to like figure that out on my own.
yeah. That does make me think of my holiday meal plans. I have a meal plan that is for Thanksgiving, and I have a meal plan that's for Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. And those dishes that are on those meal plans, they've kind of won their place there over the years, and I don't veer too far from it. As glamorous as like there always will be stuff that pops up on Pinterest and Instagram of holiday dishes, but I just I have a routine or a system for those things, and we just make the same thing every Thanksgiving, and we make the same thing every Christmas. And without without even trying that hard, those dishes became a tradition. So my family, my husband especially, he just knows that Christmas morning we have this breakfast casserole that we always make, and we have they're called apple skivers. They're like these little kind of round pancakes. Anyways, those are always what we have. And I think one time I tried to make something different and everybody was like, "Where's that?" They couldn't understand where the other dishes went. So
Oh
your
my
family
gosh,
gets to
I
count on it.
love that. I love that. And that sounds like a really low effort way to make a tradition. Like you're making,
Mhm,
like reducing the mental load of it, of not having to
mhm.
rethink the menu. And then that becomes a tradition.
Yeah, yeah, you don't have to try very hard and get really good. Like you were talking about your mom, you get really good at knowing. I'm just thinking with those menus, I've gotten really good at knowing like what order I need to cook things in for the Thanksgiving meal and what can be made ahead of time and what order those things need to be like if they were in the freezer to warm them back up. So I've got it down pretty concrete. Like, why would I change that
Mhm.
too much? Because it will just kind of throw things off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a skill you developed over time? Because like I know I do not have that skill or nor do I
Yeah.
have any traditional recipes. Do you have any tips to share for someone who might be in my position on like how to
Um,
start that and kind of how to work through that system?
I would say start with asking your family members. Like, I don't know what ages your kids are, but asking your husband and asking your family members, like, what is your favorite thing to eat on Thanksgiving? And find out what their favorite dishes are. And then if your husband, for instance, has one that comes to mind from his childhood, well, find out where you can get that recipe and start trying to make it yourself. The other thing that's good is just to ask around among friends because I feel like you'll fall down a rabbit hole during those holiday seasons if you just start typing in on your search of Pinterest. It'll just you'll you'll end up with endless all of these dishes that could be. But ask friends. Grandmas are great resources for like the tried and trues.
Mhm.
But then, yeah, just check with your family members because they're the ones that are going to be eating it. Check with your family members and ask, like, what are your favorite things? Because maybe, you know, one person really doesn't like berry pies, and maybe you've been making that, and it's time for a switch. So I would start there as ask them what they like, and then find those recipes that you can start using every year.
I love that. Do you have any other strategies for low effort traditions?
Let me think. I think that if you stick to keeping it simple and keeping it sentimental, it doesn't the holidays do not have to be this big hoorah. You don't have to make a big deal out of trying to create traditions. Very simple things can become traditions. Several years ago, I started doing for each of my family members, they just get like a it's they're just little and they're cheap, but little, and we're talking like little small nativity sets, and we put those in each of the kids' rooms, and they just go on their nightstands. And I don't go in there and set it up for them. Just when we're starting to get out the Christmas boxes, I say, "Oh, here's your nativity. Go set up your nativity," and they put it wherever they want in their room. And I love that because for us, it kind of we like to focus on Jesus Christ for Christmas, and so it for us, that's kind of a simple symbolic thing that they keep in their room during Christmas to tie around Christmas or that Christmas season. Another thing that we do in our family is that we have a very simple gingerbread cookie recipe, and my kids look forward to that every year, and they ask probably starting about December 1st, what Friday are we going to make the gingerbread cookies? So again, that was something that actually came from my husband's childhood, and he loved it, and I've just continued that, and I didn't have something like that in my house growing up, so I was like happy to keep it going for our kids.
Mhm.
The other thing that we do is kind of a tradition in our house, and again, like these aren't like loud, huge traditions. They're just actually kind of very natural, simple things. But we have two Christmas trees in our house, and one is the kids' tree. And I help them like put up the tree, but then they are in charge of decorating it. And they love to do that. They love to get into those ornaments that we've had for several years and to remember, that I made this in kindergarten and this was so funny. Why did I do this? And blah, blah, blah. And they hang their own ornaments on their tree, and they love that.
I love that. One of my favorite books is called Simplicity Parenting, and like one of the like parenting tips in there is to like create a family culture.
Okay.
And like he defines that as just being able to finish the sentence of like my family always, fill in the blank. And I think
Yeah.
like we could really simplify traditions to just be that. My family always goes and cuts our own Christmas tree the first weekend of December.
Uh-huh.
And that's very reflective of my family's like do it yourself like value. It's just like a big part of my family. But like you say, just like my family always makes gingerbread cookies and it doesn't have to be huge. It could be my
Mhm.
family always watches The Grinch on Christmas Eve or something like. But
Yeah.
traditions really keep us grounded, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you guys do this, but it's very popular for that elf on the shelf tradition.
Oh,
And
I will never start that.
We'll never start
Okay.
it.
Too much work.
Good, good. I I never was interested in it. And it's been around forever, but I was like, nah, it's okay. I just never had interest in it. Well, now over the years, I have known some people that is a family tradition, and it's been so hard for them to keep up. Like it's just one of those things that it it overwhelms them to the point where they're like, I hate that. I hate this part of Christmas. And I'm like, why are you still doing that? Like
Mhm.
just you need to tweak something that he moved away. Like I don't know.
Yeah, you
It's
want it to be
something.
consistent and not intense.
Right, right, right. So that's
Mhm.
where I've tried, like I said, I just tried to focus on like just come naturally traditions that are just easy and the whole family enjoys and even mom enjoys and I don't stress about them.
Which is the most important
Yeah.
for mom to not be stressed.
Right,
Do you
Yes.
have
right.
any traditions or routines specific to hosting or having guests? Like something you take them to do, or like a little, I don't know, something to make it special when you have guests?
When we're with like our extended family, we will usually do like a native, like I'm thinking my husband's side of the family, we'll do like a nativity
Mhm.
reenactment. So we'll do that. We have actually some of my favorite things that we've done with extended family is when we've done like a service type of thing. I I honestly don't love all the stuff that is given and received with the holidays. I would much rather prefer to do like a service or take a special trip or take a visit to somebody. So we have in the past provided some service to people that needed it, and I think that those are very memorable to the
Mhm.
kids. They forget the stuff and the things pretty quickly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I would say about that.
I think the best thing you can do for guests is to have a good mattress. This might be just out of nowhere, maybe my personal
Yeah.
experience going to people's houses and them having a crappy mattress, but
I will say that we do have a really good hide-a-bed. It's like different from your typical one. It does not have that bar that goes in the
Mm.
middle. And sometimes I'm like, well, does that keep people here longer than I want them? Or maybe I should look at it as it really did provide them a good night's rest. So yeah, I think that that's one of the most important things is that I just know that, yeah, like you just said that you've slept somewhere where there wasn't a great mattress. I have slept somewhere where I think she went and got a blanket off the kid's bed and brought it to me, like threw it at me. Like there just wasn't like something set aside for like your
Yeah.
guest.
Yeah.
and, and I was kind of like, I'm sorry, and I don't know.
Yeah.
You never want to make anybody feel like you're an inconvenience.
Mhm.
So you want to welcome them to your home. And if you have things that are ready for guests, then they do feel welcomed. They don't feel like it was an inconvenience for them to come stay with you.
Mhm.
And I think it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. You don't have to have a room that's just for guests that's
No.
never been touched or like special guest, whatever. Like just make sure things are clean and tidy and
Mhm.
like intentionally for them. But I
Mhm.
don't think there should be so much pressure on everything has to be perfect and it be
Yeah.
like a hotel.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. In our house, one of our bedrooms did used to be a guest room, but now we had to give up that guest room so that each child could have their own room. And and I don't miss it. Like, I mean, we're still prepared, whether it be an air service or that really great pull-out couch I was talking about. We're still
Mhm.
prepared for guests, and we still keep things clean. And I have some things set aside for when guests come.
Mhm. Yeah, and it feels good as a guest to just know, like, where you stand and what you're supposed to do, like,
Yeah.
this is the towel they want me to use. This is the
Right.
bathroom they want me to use, that kinda stuff. I don't know, it makes you feel like you're wanted there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
That's
like a
true.
snack cupboard so they know what they can eat.
Yes, I
Yeah.
do like it when someone gives me, like, a little tour of the kitchen, like, this is where where the best water is, like this one or this one,
Yeah.
and this is where if you need a snack is, like, a good place to find one, or this
Yeah.
is I
Well,
don't
I've even found too, like, you should probably point out to your guests, like, here's the light switch to turn off this light. Um,
Mhm.
because often, well, the way that we have it set up now is where our guests would be sleeping, they have to walk out and go down through the kitchen, down a little hall to the bathroom. So to find your way through the night, and so
Mhm.
I try to make sure, like, hey, just so you know, this is the lights if you want to turn them on and off, or feel free to leave this light on if you want to leave this light on so that you
Mhm.
can get around in the night if you need to.
Yes, or show people how to
Yeah.
turn the shower on. Like, I remember going to my cousin's house once, and it was, like, the kind where it was, like, a shower and a bath,
Yeah.
and just not being able to figure it out and feeling so awkward about going to ask my aunt how to do it,
And
like
you might be standing there naked at that point.
Yeah, of course, yes, and so I had to get redressed and then be like, "Aunt Sharon, how do I do this?"
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yep. I get it.
It can be stressful to be a guest, but also to be the host. Do you have any tips for managing stress of being a host or self-care during hosting season?
I, I, one of the best things that I did with a friend, like in the last couple years, is she has invited me to go to a Broadway show with her during the Christmas season. And that was like the the December is so busy. Like, especially now that my kids are older, they each have something that they've been involved with during December. And then on top of that, my husband and I are both business owners. So we usually host something for our employees during that time. So it's such a busy month. But when this friend started inviting me the last couple of years to go to a Broadway show with her, I was like, that was so nice. It was just like an easy afternoon. It was just me and her, and it wasn't running to something that, another school production or whatever. So I would say, like, if you can take some time to just have a lunch with a friend during the day, most likely it's going to be during that season, you need to do it during the day. But have lunch with a friend or have some kind of outing with a friend during the day. And when we did that Broadway show, I remember now they were actually matinees, so they were during the day. And then another thing that I really love to do to just kind of keep my cup full and to manage the holiday stress is I take those moments where I just will sit quietly, like with the Christmas tree, because I think that you still need to remember, like, you're trying to provide um, such a wonderful, all these memories for your children, but don't forget yourself. Like, enjoy the spirit of the holidays yourself too. So do what you need to do so that you are still happy through the holidays. And for me, that is kind of sitting for quiet moments by the Christmas tree, maybe in the early morning, or I know sometimes it has been at 1 o'clock in the morning, sitting there by the Christmas tree. Take your naps when you need them. That's a year-round thing,
Mhm.
but take your naps when you need them too, because the holiday season is exhausting. You can get pretty tired.
It can be, and I think
Yeah.
I think that's such a good point of, like, making sure that you make holiday memories as well.
Mhm.
Like, last
Right.
year for me, I will always remember I was reading Iron Flame. At the
Uh-huh.
time, that book was so popular last year. Anyways, I remember, like, laying on the couch, like, with the Christmas tree behind me, like, lighting up my book, and
Yeah.
I was thinking the last few weeks as I've been thinking about the holidays, and I'm like, "I need to have a good book to read this holiday season because
Yes.
it felt so peaceful. I don't know, just laying there on the couch after everyone
Yes.
had gone to bed, reading my book, like, with Christmas tree
Yes.
lights behind me.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I think also you have to keep in mind that your kids and this their childhood and creating these family traditions and stuff, it is a season and they're not going to always be at home. And so you should have some traditions that you have just for yourself that are kind of for you as an adult because um I've seen this with both sides of our families now that we split holiday time, between two sets of grandparents, and then we create our own traditions. So you just need to have some on your own,
Mhm.
that'll last past the kids when they move out.
I used to read Harry Potter every Christmas, the whole series. I haven't done that
The
in a while.
whole
The whole series.
series.
Well, I mean,
Oh
it was
my
before I had
gosh.
children. I haven't done it
Oh
since I've
wow.
had children, but that was my parents would joke because every
Wow.
time I'd come home from college, yeah, I would read Harry Potter and I had to finish the whole series before they could talk to me.
Oh
Then it
my
was like, okay, now
gosh.
Shannon's present. That was my way to decompress.
Wow. Oh my
And
goodness.
now it's gotten
Wow.
me thinking of like, what's my
Yeah.
tradition
I
gonna
mean,
be?
maybe that's a good idea, but I'm thinking maybe we would do it like on audiobooks. Like we could probably maybe
Mm,
manage it
mhm.
that way.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah,
awesome. That's great.
I love that. Okay, we've got another question for you. What's the best way to handle unexpected guests or last-minute changes? There's always this battle of wanting to control everything and yeah.
Mhm. So when you ask me that, it immediately makes me think of times when the doorbell has rung and it's well well-meaning, friends that are bringing well wishes and maybe I didn't and they're bringing like gifts or a treat to drop off, something. And I'm sitting there just not on purpose, but just kind of spaced like, "Oh, I don't have a gift for you." So what I have started doing in recent years is we do like neighbor gifts and we do gifts for, like maybe community members or like I said, neighbor gifts, church member gifts, those types of things. We we do gifts for those families, but I always make some extra. So I'll set aside and I'll usually just keep them in the pantry. So they're actually not too far from my front door. If somebody shows up or if somebody comes to mind and I would like to gift something to them, I have something that already has a little simple ribbon on it and it has a tag that just says Merry Christmas. It doesn't even have to say, their name exactly, but it just says Merry Christmas from the Wyatts. And that because I I yes, you should accept gifts with gratitude, but I personally I do love to be able to hand something to them as well.
Mhm.
So and usually our go-to gifts as a family have been pineapples. We 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 wait until we pineapples will usually go on sale during December at some point, and we'll go to the store and we will grab a ton of them. And then we do this thing where we have on the tag that Mele Kimikimaka, Merry Christmas in Hawaiian. And we'll have that on a tag. And then we have pineapples ready to hand out to others. And it's a simple gift and it's edible and it's fun.
Yeah, low effort on your part. You don't even have to cut up the pineapple.
No, you don't. And you didn't have to bake anything. Like,
No.
no,
Yeah.
it's awesome. That's actually one of my favorite things. I love when people gift fruit. Like I've received oranges at Christmas. We've received pears. But I love when you can do something that's not all the candy and not all the cookies.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was told to, I inherited from my mother-in-law a tomatillo salsa recipe, and I made it for our Christmas party last year, and someone was like, you should do Christmas gifts with this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that is genius. You just make a big batch of salsa and put it in little jars. So
Yes.
that's what I'm doing. Chelsea,
Yes.
hold me to that.
Yes.
I love tomatillo salsa, so you
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
I think it is a good idea to kind of think a little bit outside of the traditional, like those traditional gifts, like a plate of cookies that, yes, that is always a go-to and it is fun, but sometimes you get too much of that. And so if you can think of things that people like the salsa, like something that maybe, oh, people don't usually give this, or something that people will use. I remember one year there was a family that was giving out rolls of wrapping paper. Like,
That's clever.
that's what- I know it was holiday wrapping paper, and that's what they gave out. And I mean, we used it. It was totally great.
Yeah, yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, you could just freeze some of the cookies that you get. I know, well, I don't really know very many neighbors in my neighborhood, but my parents are pretty
Yeah.
well established in their neighborhood. And like any time in December you go over and their kitchen counter is just covered in cookies and treats that people have given them. I'm like, we should
Yeah.
just freeze
And
this and pull
re-gift.
it out in like March or something.
Well, and I wasn't sure like exactly if you guys would think this was great, but we have regifted treats before.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of
Yeah.
regifting.
Yeah, so down for
Okay,
regifting.
okay. Because it just gets to be so much sometimes, and there's that season is so sweet, and the kids are given stuff at school, and stuff is given to my husband at work, and it's just so much. And so I will admit that a couple times, well, more than a couple times, I've had some holiday paper plates, and we have regifted treats on those plates and just wrapped them up, and we've given those things.
Waste not, want not.
Yes,
My
that's
motto.
true.
You're recycling.
Yes.
Yes.
Gotta
And
go.
I love to recycle.
Yes. Gotta go green. I love that. Okay, we've got 2 more questions for you. Okay, so what is your like checklist of non-negotiable tasks to focus on for a successful, simple hosting?
So I would say that start your tasks in October. I think of things that things that I will be doing in October is I'm going to be getting my pantry organized and stocked. One of the worst things I can think of is shopping for pantry staples in November and December, because that's when everybody else will be thinking of them, and you'll just end up frustrated on those shopping trips. Like the stores are a mess and they're stressful places to be during that time. So start in October of getting your pantry in order and getting it stocked with what you would need to maybe make those holiday baked goods or what you need for just meals coming up. If I can avoid going into stores in November and December, I do. I really don't like it. They're just places to be. Another thing that I would be doing before like that Thanksgiving time, before really that holiday season sets in November, is preparing and making sure that I have, like we've been talking about, guest bedding and linens. Make sure you've got those ready, that they're clean, and don't forget your tablecloths. Have those clean, and those are things that you don't want to necessarily have to remember the week that you're hosting. If you can have those things done months in advance and just waiting, for you, then that's no pressure for those extra things on those holiday meals and when guests are coming. I think one other thing that this is actually something that I am actually working on myself. When you are feeding a crowd during the holidays, make sure that you have also stocked like your dinnerware. And when I say dinnerware, I'm talking like paper plates and enough stuff for people to eat on at your house. And whether you are serving on paper plates or maybe you have your dishes that you use, whether that be something that you've had for a long time, or maybe you've told yourself, I'm going to start looking in the thrift stores for that. Start looking in October. Like, do those things in October. Do the things then when you're not so busy in November and December. So, yeah.
That's excellent advice. I love all of that.
How early in advance does your family plan like who's hosting what holiday?
Well, it depends on what side of the family you're talking to. My husband's side of the family, that's already been planned. Like we already have the dates set for when Christmas will be happening. And that usually that's usually texted out like late August, I would say, to
Wow.
September. Yeah. My family, on the other hand, we haven't talked about it yet, and we probably won't until maybe, I don't know, 2 weeks before. So
Okay.
And that's also probably when the delegations of the food will be happening also that 2 weeks before. So every family's different, but and I don't think there's a right or wrong way of doing it. Yeah. So
Do you have a system for delegating, or does your family, is it I assumed like this person will make this meal or this side dish?
my mother-in-law, when we eat with their family, she usually takes care of like the main dishes, and then the rest of us kids, adult kids, we will bring side dishes and desserts. So she takes care of those main dishes, and she takes care of the dinnerware. She's got all that arranged. On my side of the family, it's kind of we just kind of were like, I want to do this, and it is kind of a free for all, and then we just kind of make sure that we have all the boxes checked by the end of that text message. So, and I think that over the years, like there's certain things that I make, or there's certain things that my sister makes, and we just were like, can you please bring that? Like, we love that Jell-O salad. Will you please bring that? And so that's just kind of how both families do it.
I love it. Okay, sorry, last actual question, and then we do have some listener questions. So, do you have like favorite meals or traditions that have been passed down to you? And do you have any that you are trying to pass down to your kids?
Favorite meals or traditions?
I mean, specifically to like a hosting event, like this dish or drink or going around the table and saying something along those lines.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of what has been passed down from my own childhood. But like I have referred to a couple times that gingerbread cookie recipe, that came from my husband's side of the family. And that is one thing that I will definitely be passing down to my kids. So that's something I would say, now that I'm thinking about it, with my side of the family, it was always those neighbor gifts or church friend gifts. Those were always a big deal that was a tradition that was in my side of the family as a child. I can remember piling into our Suburban and having all of these treat plates prepared, and that we would go deliver them. And I didn't realize until I was now in my adult years, that's a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but And it makes it for a long night. If you try to do all in one night, it does make for a long
Yeah.
night. But my kids have enjoyed it, and I think that that's something that I'll try to, you know, hopefully they've enjoyed it and they'll see that I want to do that too and give to others.
I remember my family doing that, and we all had to go to the door to give the gift. Like, it's from the family, so the whole family has to get
Oh,
out of I was always like,
yeah,
"Just send one person up there to go drop it off
yeah.
on the porch."
I,
But
I think, and honestly, that's kind of the point where I'm at. We've tried to like get the kids to go do
mhm.
it, and we'll just kind of wave from from the car,
Yeah.
and or we will take turns. Like,
Mhm.
I did the last one, and so you
Yes.
have to go do this one. So,
Exactly. That's so
I
but
can't.
funny.
I I was gonna say I don't know if this is a tradition with either one of your families, but we are not ones that we go to the door and sing. Like, I never know what to do when people come to my door and sing.
It's more fun to do, I think, than to receive.
Okay, okay, yeah, because when they come to my door, I'm like, you know,
Yeah,
they're just kind of standing there
my
and
parents made us do that growing up around the
oh
neighborhood,
yeah,
and at a certain point it stopped. But one thing that we would do, we would always have a pot of wassail on the stove. So if people
oh
did come over,
yes,
or like carolers
yes,
would come, we would have something to like serve them. And so that's
yes.
one of my favorite things that I want to try and carry on is just like having a pot of
Okay.
wassail. Plus it keeps forever.
Yes. Actually, I had never really tasted or knew what wassail was up until just only like 3 or 4 years ago. And I was at a holiday party and somebody had it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And that became a family
Mhm.
tradition. I mean, that only was started just 4 years ago that we make wassail on the stove and my kids love it. Like they really, really love it. So that's another thing is like to be open to like just to trying new things and it's never too late.
Oh, I love that. Okay, we had a really good listener question, and I know we're going a little long here, but I'm very curious because you hinted at this earlier, but what's the dream holiday menu? What is like your tried and true holiday menu?
So my tried and true holiday menu is after many years and many turkeys, we only do Traeger turkeys now.
Mhm.
We cook a turkey on we smoke it. We smoke the turkey on a Traeger. And my husband loves to do that. So we always do the Traeger turkeys. I don't know why that's hard for me. Traeger turkeys. We do we always have sweet potato, like casserole or mashed sweet potatoes. One year, my sister brought out canned yams, and I was, like, appalled. I was like, "No, we are not eating that. Like, you have to like, we have to have this." So we always do that. We always do mashed potatoes, actually, and we don't do instant on that. We do made from scratch mashed potatoes. There's always those are kind of the top things I can think of at Thanksgiving, but for Christmas, I always do a breakfast casserole that I've made ahead, and it's in the fridge, and it's just ready to be popped into the oven so that I can be present on Christmas morning and still be there kind of among my kids in the hustle and bustle, and the casserole is cooking on its own in the oven.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
Might need you to share that recipe.
I will. It's Mel's Kitchen Cafe, if you're familiar with her. You
I've
know
heard
she's
of her.
good.
When I was in college, I was in a cookie class and she came and like did a presentation
Oh,
like
okay.
12 years ago or something.
Really?
Yeah, and
Okay.
she's a cool lady.
She lives in my area, actually.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah, she's
And
around.
where do you live? Because in your intro, you said you lived in Phoenix at some point, but we couldn't tell
Sure.
where you lived now based on your intro.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Now I'm remembering. I forgot to add that. So eventually we ended up in Idaho. We're outside of the Boise area.
Okay.
Okay. I have another listener question.
Okay.
So, say it's your first year hosting. What are some must-have serving dishes that they should look into getting?
And are you talking about like the actual dishes
Like
that
the
you're
actual
serving
dishes
on?
or like having
Hmm.
giant drink dispensers? Do you have any
Hmm.
holy grail items?
Um, so I have some that are like dear to me. I have some china that I inherited from my grandma's, and I only have the dinner plates. So sometimes when people are gifting china to you, like let's say maybe it is your grandma, they want to give the whole set. I have never wanted or never felt like I needed an entire whole set of china. So if you can just get your hands on some nice dinner plates, and you can find those at thrift stores as well.
Mhm.
If you can get your hands on some nice dinner plates, I think those are special, and I love to serve those meals on those china dinner plates. But one thing I bought a few years ago that I pull out for holiday meals and also during the year, but if you just buy like a large white platter, mine came from Target. It was $20. I still remember. It is ginormous, but it was only $20. It's a ceramic, nice looking platter. And if you can just have a few pieces that are just like white, then those always match other things. So that's what even in my everyday plates, they're all white because they just match everything. And they maybe came from different brands, but everything's white.
That's awesome. I'm going to look out for stuff at the thrift store now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't have any serving like platters or anything. I'm like, I need to start.
Right.
I'm getting to that stage where
Right.
I might be hosting.
I think to have a platter and have like a really large serving bowl, because a serving bowl can hold rolls, a serving bowl can hold a salad, it can hold cookie dough, like there's all kinds of things, but just like there's a difference between like a nice serving bowl and a mixing bowl. So if you have like a nice ceramic serving bowl, that'll serve you well for years and years.
Yeah, and I really like and agree with your tip of just getting white stuff, because if you buy a bowl at Walmart this year and then in 10 years you buy something at Crate and Barrel and whatever, but if you always just stick with white in it, like when you have everything displayed out on the table, it all goes together.
And I found too, years later, maybe there was things that I received maybe for like as wedding gifts that weren't quite my taste down the road. And then when we were, going through college and training and residency with my husband, we didn't have a lot of money. So honestly, I would list those kinds of things that weren't my taste anymore on Marketplace. And I would just, take that cash and I would go buy at the thrift store or TJ Maxx or whatever. I would buy stuff that was more my taste and more classic. So, yeah.
I do have a set of bowls from my wedding that I've never used. They just sit in a cupboard.
Yeah.
Giving me ideas.
Yes. List them. Somebody will buy them. There's always going to be somebody on Marketplace that they'll buy them.
I love that. Well, I'm so glad you came on it, and I feel like I've learned a lot. I'm hosting Thanksgiving this year, so I'm excited about it now after our discussion.
Yeah.
So where can people find you, and what do you have to share with the world? Anything else you want to add?
Well, I'm mostly found on Instagram these days. I love to share homemaking tips on there. I do have a website that should be up by the end of the year, hopefully sooner than that, but I'm working towards that. So I love Instagram. I love the community that I've kind of have there, and I love to learn from, actually, I really love to learn from others there. I am posting things, but I love to learn from others on Instagram as well and other accounts there.
That's
Tell us
awesome.
your
And you're
Instagram
fun to
handle.
follow.
You can find me at Hive Honey Home on Instagram.
Okay. Everyone go give Alicia a follow. I love following you. I think you're so fun and
Thanks.
learning something new all the time.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And we hope everyone enjoyed this episode. And we want to know what your hosting tips and tricks are for Chelsea for Thanksgiving and me for 5 years in the future when I decide to get brave enough.
Yeah, send us a DM and tell us what you have to add to the conversation.
All right. We will see all of you guys next week. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of She Would Know. We would love to hear from you. If you have suggestions for topics and experts you would like to listen to, drop a line in the comments or connect with us on Instagram or TikTok at shewouldknow.podcast. If you'd like to support the podcast, please subscribe on Apple or Spotify and leave a review. We would like to give a special thanks to Adam Kump for our intro and outro music. And thank you for listening. Don't forget to stay curious, and we'll see you next week for a new episode.